One day, a young woman named Elissa, who lived in a small village, discovered she had a special power. The villagers knew her as just an ordinary girl, but Elissa knew she was somewhat different. She possessed an old manuscript, passed down from her mother, which hinted at a mysterious power hidden within her, the fairy power, a miraculous force capable of spreading love, peace, and strength throughout the world. Elissa understood that to harness this power, she embarked on a dangerous quest. Her destination was the fairy forest, where this power was said to be concealed, but reaching it required overcoming hidden magic and formidable guardians of immense power. As Elissa began her journey, she encountered three mysterious companions: Neo, a young man skilled in controlling the forces of nature; Maya, an expert archer whose aim never missed; and Velair, an old warrior seasoned in various battles. They all agreed to assist Elissa, recognizing that the fairy power could free the world from darkness. Together, they traversed through magical mountains and crossed vast jungles filled with raging storms, venomous snakes, and living trees that stood in their path. Thanks to their combined strength and friendship, they overcame all obstacles. Finally, they reached the gate of the fairy forest, marked by an ancient stone door. Guarding it was the fairy protector, a mysterious entity whose face was never seen. The protector challenged them, declaring, to truly obtain the fairy power, you must pass three difficult trials. The first trial was the trial of nature. A ferocious storm threatened them. By navigating the timeless stream of the silent forest, they conquered the forces of nature. The second was the trial of combat. A monstrous creature attacked them. Velair used his ancient battle tactics to defeat the beast. The third was the trial of heart. Elissa delved deep into the forest and uncovered the true mystery of her power. She realized that the fairy power emanated from her own heart, her courage, love, and indomitable will. With the combined powers, the radiant light within the fairy forest began to shine brightly. Elissa grasped the fairy crystal, granting her immense strength. She felt that this power was fully realized through unity, and her actions would transform the world. She recited an incantation that spread peace and love throughout the earth. Returning to their village, Elissa and her friends were celebrated. The power of the fairy power led not only her but the entire world towards love, peace, and understanding. The villagers embraced her new strength, and Elissa realized this was a journey for hope for every being on earth. Elissa made a new vow to transform the world into a more beautiful, peaceful, and humane place using this power. Thus concluded the quest for fairy power, where a young woman, through courage, friendship, and love, attained the world's greatest power and guided it towards a new dawn.
Once upon a time in a kingdom, there was a sweet and kind girl named Cinderella. Her mother passed away when she was young, and soon after, her father remarried. However, her stepmother turned out to be extremely cruel and selfish. She had two arrogant daughters who treated Cinderella like a maid. They wore beautiful clothes and attended royal events, while Cinderella was left to do all the household chores, wear old clothes, and clean the fireplace ashes. Hence her name, Cinderella. One day, a grand ball was announced at the royal palace. The prince was searching for his suitable companion, so all the young women of the kingdom were invited. Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters were busy preparing for the event with glee, but Cinderella was forbidden to attend. Her heart broke, and she sat in a corner, weeping. Just at that moment, a magical fairy appeared. She said, "Don't worry, dear Cinderella, you will go to the ball." With a wave of her magic wand, she transformed Cinderella's old, ragged dress into a magnificent royal gown and put dazzling glass slippers on her feet. She turned a pumpkin into a grand carriage and the mice into charming coachmen. But the fairy warned her, "Remember, the magic will break at midnight, so return before then." Cinderella arrived at the ball, enchanting everyone with her beauty. Everyone was astonished, including the prince. They danced together, and time seemed to stand still. Suddenly, the clock struck midnight. Frantically, Cinderella rushed to leave the palace, knowing that when the magic wore off, everything would return to its original state. In her haste, She lost one of her glass slippers, but didn't stop. The next day, the prince decided to search for his dream maiden by having every young woman in the kingdom try on the slipper. Every woman attempted to fit into the slipper, but it fit none. Finally, it was Cinderella's turn. Her stepmother tried to prevent her from attempting, but the prince's servants disregarded her. As soon as Cinderella tried on the slipper, it fit perfectly. Everyone stood in awe. The prince realized she was the woman he had danced with at the ball. Joyfully, he took her to the royal palace, and a few days later, they were married, turning Cinderella into a real princess. Meanwhile, her stepmother and stepsisters received their due punishment for their wickedness, and Cinderella went on to live her new life in happiness and harmony. Thus, an ordinary girl achieved her dream life through her kindness, beauty, and good fortune.
Once upon a time in a faraway kingdom, there was a princess with skin as white as snow, hair as black as coal, and lips as red as blood. Her name was Snow White. Her mother passed away when she was very young, and her father remarried a cruel and vain queen. This stepmother was very beautiful, but she was so vain about her beauty that she would ask her magic mirror daily, "Who is the fairest of them all?" The mirror would always reply, "You, O queen." But one day the mirror declared, "Snow White is even more beautiful than you." The queen's heart burned with jealousy. She ordered, "Remove this girl from the kingdom." The queen sent a huntsman to kill Snow White, but the huntsman's heart softened, and he let Snow White flee into the forest. While wandering, Snow White came across a small cottage where 7 dwarfs lived. They took pity on her and said, "You can stay here safely, but beware of the queen's men." When the queen discovered Snow White was still alive, she crafted a poisoned apple using magic. Disguised as an old woman, she offered Snow White the apple. Snow White initially refused, but when the old woman took a bite from the safe part, Snow White accepted and ate it. Instantly, she fell into a death-like sleep. The dwarfs couldn't awaken her, so they laid her in a glass coffin, believing her dead. Much later, a prince passing through the forest became enchanted by Snow White's beauty. He was so captivated that he asked the dwarfs for permission to take her with him. As they moved the coffin, suddenly the piece of poisoned apple dislodged from her throat, and Snow White awoke. The prince joyfully took her to his palace, and soon they were wed, bringing joy throughout the kingdom. When the queen's magic mirror declared Snow White still the fairest, she ventured to see the princess, but found her alive and happy with the prince. Unable to bear her defeat, the queen fled in fear and was never seen again in the kingdom. Snow White regained her kingdom and lived happily with the prince, her kindness, beauty, and purity of heart keeping her beloved by all. Thus, truth and justice prevailed, while envy and greed were vanquished.
In the vast white kingdom of the north, where even daylight felt cold as snow, lived a mighty queen known as the Snow Queen. Her heart was as solid as ice, devoid of any sentiment, with no space for love. One day, amidst a raging snowstorm that had cloaked the skies, a princess was born in her realm. The child's skin was as white as snow, yet her eyes held a strange warmth, a hint of spring hidden within the icy world. The Snow Queen was struck with fear. Why does this child's heart possess warmth? Will she never be as unyielding as I am? Driven by this fear, she made a terrible decision. During the storm, she abandoned the child at the foot of a mountain where humans lived. A kind old woman found the child and raised her lovingly, naming her Navara. Navara knew nothing about her origin or that she was a princess of the snow. However, within her lay a wondrous power. As winter arrived, snow danced around her, ice flowers blossomed at her touch. Her laughter made snowflakes shimmer like pearls. Years passed, and one day the Snow Queen discovered that her daughter was alive. Furious with rage, she sent a snowstorm to reclaim Navara to her palace. Upon reaching the icy castle, the Snow Queen spoke harshly to her. "You are my daughter, the heir of the Snow Kingdom. You must forget feelings and be strong like me." But Navara was not afraid. Instead, she gazed at the Snow Queen with a deep love in her eyes. Snow may be rigid, but it possesses beauty. Do you know that snow not only solidifies, but can also melt under the sun and flow as a river? For the first time, the Snow Queen felt something, a strange pain, a crack within. Her icy heart began to thaw. A single tear formed in her eye. Along with that tear, the arrival of spring came for the first time in the Snow Kingdom. The Snow Queen realized strength is not about being harsh. True power lies in love and compassion. Thereafter, Navara became a kind and graceful princess of the Snow Realm. Winter ceased to be terrifying, instead spreading joy across the land. Snow transformed from a symbol of harshness to one of beauty, brightness, and love. Thus a new era of warmth began in the Snow Queen's kingdom. Once upon a time, in a town in Persia, there lived a poor woodcutter named Ali Baba. He had a brother named Kasim who was wealthy and greedy, while Ali Baba was honest and hardworking. One day, while cutting wood in the forest, Ali Baba saw 40 thieves arrive in front of a cave. Their leader shouted, "Open sesame!" To Ali Baba's astonishment, a door in the rock opened, and the thieves entered the cave. After some time, they came out, and the leader said, "Close sesame," and the door closed. When the thieves left, Ali Baba gathered his courage and approached the cave. He repeated the same magic words, "Open sesame." The door opened, revealing countless treasures inside: gold, silver, gems, and precious wealth. Ali Baba realized it was the hidden treasure trove of the thieves. Without being too greedy, he took a small amount of gold coins, filled his bag, and returned home. Ali Baba told his wife everything, but when Kasim, his brother, heard the news, he burned with envy. Kasim learned the secret words from Ali Baba and went to the cave the next day alone. In his greed, Kasim took so much treasure that he forgot the magic words to open the door. The thieves eventually returned and caught him, and they killed him. The thieves realized their treasure's secret was out and began searching for Ali Baba's home to exact revenge. The thieves' leader devised a plan. He and his men would hide inside 40 large oil jars and sneak into Ali Baba's house. One thief came to Ali Baba's house disguised as an oil merchant. The rest hid inside the jars. However, Ali Baba's clever maid, Morgiana, detected the trick. She poured boiling oil into each jar, killing all the thieves. The next morning, Ali Baba discovered Morgiana had saved his life. Grateful, he accepted Morgiana as a member of his own family. The moral of the story is that excessive greed leads to destruction. Honesty and hard work are always rewarded. Intelligence and courage can protect from peril. In the bustling city of Baghdad, a poor porter named Hindbad marveled at the magnificent palace of a wealthy man. Curious about the secret behind such opulence, he inquired about how the man had amassed such wealth. The wealthy man, Sinbad, invited Hindbad to listen to the tales of his adventurous voyages. First voyage, Sinbad set sail on the vast ocean with a crew of adventurous sailors. They stumbled upon a lush green island, and everyone disembarked to explore its beauty. The ground began to move. It was a colossal living whale. Many sailors were thrown into the sea, but Sinbad clung onto driftwood and was rescued. Second voyage, Sinbad embarked on another expedition, arriving at a mysterious island with a gigantic bird known as Rock. He tied himself to the bird's leg, and it descended into a valley filled with precious gems and jewels, infested with venomous serpents. Sinbad used his wits to escape unharmed. Third voyage, Sinbad found himself stranded on an island inhabited by a fearsome cyclops, a giant who feasted on human flesh. The Cyclops captured many sailors, but Sinbad and his friends cleverly blinded the creature and escaped in the nick of time. Fourth voyage, Sinbad encountered an enigmatic old man who entrapped him. This old man was an ogre who rode on Sinbad's shoulders, forcing him into servitude. With clever stratagems, Sinbad vanquished the ogre and found himself in a region with monstrous snakes and treasures. Fifth voyage, Sinbad dove deep beneath the ocean waters, reaching a wondrous underwater city. He encountered peculiar creatures, and the ocean floor was abundant with pearls, corals, and treasures. After thrilling exploits, Sinbad emerged safely once more. Sixth voyage, Sinbad journeyed to an island where he encountered a magical creature, the seahorse. Pirates kidnapped him and sold him into slavery. After a challenging escape, Sinbad found employment at a royal court and slowly regained his fortune. Seventh voyage, Sinbad's last journey took him to a land with a peculiar custom. When a man died, his wife was buried alive with him. Sinbad was trapped in this land, but using his cunning, he escaped from the grave and returned home to Baghdad, rich with treasures beyond imagination.
There once was a wondrous land where the sky glistened with the radiant glow of gold, and rivers shimmered with the luminescence of silver moonlight. In this magical place dwelled two exquisite fairies, the Gold Fairy and the Silver Fairy. The Gold Fairy had hair as bright as the sun, and her smile seemed to shower light upon the world. Whenever she soared through the sky, golden rays fell like rain upon the earth. As for the Silver Fairy, her wings held the gentle luster of the moon's glow, making the waters of the river sparkle like shimmering silver under her touch. In this enchanted realm, sorrow and suffering were unknown. Everyone lived in happiness, for the two fairies lovingly shielded them from harm. Yet one day, a menacing shadow appeared. It was a cursed monster who desired to capture the magic of gold and silver for himself. The monster declared, "This magic should not belong to just you. I want all the light for myself." He summoned a mighty storm, aiming to extinguish the Gold Fairy's light and dim the Silver Fairy's glow. But the fairies refused to be frightened. They clasped hands, uniting their powers within their hearts. Then, a miraculous event occurred. The golden light and silvery moonbeam combined to form an immense force. This light became so brilliant that it blinded the monster, causing him to vanish with a scream. From that day forth, darkness never returned to that land. Together, the Gold Fairy and the Silver Fairy forged a new magical power, the power of love and unity. Their land grew even more dazzling, and the people came to realize that true magic lay not in gold or silver, but in the bonds of love and togetherness. Long, long ago, there was a small kingdom nestled in the mountains, known as Norbumi. This kingdom had a remarkable river, whose waters shimmered like gold. It was said that the river was magical, and only one with a true heart could touch its waters. The princess of this realm, Shubra, was unparalleled in beauty and grace. Her heart was as gentle and pure as white snow. She would help the poor, care for animals, and always speak the truth. However, within this kingdom lived a wicked sorcerer named Kalamantra. He desired to harness the power of the Golden River's water to enhance his own abilities. But every time he approached the river, its waters turned black, and flames erupted at his touch. Kalamantra realized that only someone with a true heart could obtain this water. He then crafted a dreadful plan. One day, Kalamantra came to the royal palace disguised as an old sage and began to weep in front of the princess. Shubra asked, "Why are you crying?" Kalamantra replied, "I am very ill, princess. I have heard that the waters of the Golden River could heal me. If you could bring me just a little water, I will forever bless you." Shubra, being compassionate, believed his words and went to the river. But the moment she dipped her hand in the water, lightning cracked across the sky. It was as if the river warned her. A mistake was being made. Yet before Shubhra could comprehend, Kalamantra revealed his true form. He pushed the princess into the water, declaring, "Now this kingdom shall be mine." But then a miraculous event occurred. As the river's waters touched Shubhra, the surroundings lit up with golden light. The river protected Shubhra with its waves and sent a terrifying current towards Kalamantra. Screaming, he vanished into nothingness. Shubhra emerged from the river, but she was no longer an ordinary princess. She was the Golden River's blessed fairy. From that day forward, Shubhra became the guardian of Norbumi. The people of the kingdom realized that true love and kindness are never defeated, and those who are wicked vanish into oblivion. Long ago, there was a small village named Nandanpur, where lived a kind-hearted girl named Chandramukhi. She was the only daughter of her mother, and her beauty was as gentle as the light of the moon. Chandramukhi was not only beautiful, but also compassionate. She helped the poor villagers, cared for animals, and spoke sweetly to everyone. She was loved by all. One day, she went to the forest to gather wood, and suddenly saw an old woman sitting by the path, crying. Chandramukhi approached and asked, "Grandmother, why are you crying?" The old woman replied, "Dear, I am very hungry, but I have nothing to eat." Without hesitation, Chandramukhi gave the old woman the food she had brought for herself. The old woman, having eaten, said, "You are very kind, my dear. Take this, a blessing for you." The old woman handed Chandramukhi a small 7-colored flower. Happy, Chandramukhi took the flower home, but its special blessing was unknown to her. The next morning, as she was helping a poor neighbor, an astounding event took place. A bright light emerged from the flower in her hand, and the poor man's house was filled with new clothes, food, and happiness. The villagers were amazed. Chandramukhi realized that this flower would only work for those who dedicate themselves to good deeds. She began using the flower's power to do good for everyone. But this news reached a distant, greedy king's ears. He sent soldiers to capture Chandramukhi and bring her to him. The king said, "Give me this flower so that I can become even richer." Chandramukhi bowed her head and said, "Your Majesty, this flower only works for the generous and kind-hearted, not for the greedy." The king tried to take the flower into his own hands, but it withered away immediately, and all the gold and jewels in the royal palace disappeared. The king, astonished, realized that greed never brings happiness. Chandramukhi returned to her village and continued to help the poor as before. The villagers understood that truth, compassion, and love are the real strength, and those who live with innocent hearts are truly wealthy. Near the quaint village of Sundarpur lay a vast and vibrant forest, home to a myriad of creatures, colorful birds, deer, rabbits, elephants, peacocks, and even tigers. What made this forest truly fascinating was the unique harmony among its inhabitants. They were all friends, living without fear or harm towards one another. One day, a small, fragile fawn arrived in the heart of the forest. It was a sight no one had ever seen, a pure white deer. Bounding towards the newcomer, a rabbit asked, "Who are you? From where have you come?" The fawn, on the verge of tears, replied, "I have lost my parents. I'm alone and I have nowhere to go." The creatures of the forest chimed together. "You are part of our family now. We shall protect you." The elephant offered, "Stay with me, and I will guard you." The parrot added, "I will find fruits for you." From beside the waterfall, a swan proclaimed, "You can safely drink water from my pond." Thus, the community embraced the little fawn, offering love and a new family. One day, however, a hunter wandered into the forest. Eyeing the stunning creatures, he declared, Such a beautiful deer. I must take it with me. Yet the forest creatures banded together to thwart his plans. The elephant blocked the path by dropping a gigantic branch. The peacock confused the hunter by fanning its resplendent feathers. Monkeys hurled fruits from the trees to make the hunter slip and fall. Meanwhile, the parrot summoned all the forest creatures with a piercing call. The hunter, overwhelmed and frightened, fled the forest in haste. The white deer wept, but these were tears of joy. It exclaimed, "I never imagined I would find such wonderful friends." The forest erupted with laughter. The swan spoke, "The power of love and friendship is greater than anything. If we stand together, no one can harm us." From that day on, the forest of Sundarpur became even more enchanting, not only because of its natural splendor, but also due to the sweet tale of love and friendship that thrived within it. Once upon a time, in a picturesque village, lived two sisters, Sudha and Madhavi. Sudha was gentle-hearted, hard-working, and generous, whereas Madhavi was lazy, selfish, and harsh. Near the village lay a lush forest, where colorful birds spread their wings in flight, and a little waterfall flowed like music. One day, an elderly woman walked the forest path to the village. She was tired, hungry, and her clothes were dusty and worn. The elderly woman first knocked on Madhavi's door. Annoyed, Madhavi opened it and asked, "What do you want here?" The old woman earnestly pleaded, "Dear, I haven't eaten all day. Could you spare some food?" With disdain, Madhavi replied, "I don't have enough food for myself. I can't give you any. Go somewhere else," and shut the door. Heavy-hearted, the elderly woman made her way to Sudha's house. Upon seeing her, Sudha compassionately asked, "Mother, you appear very tired. Please come in and rest. I'll bring some food right away." She fed the elderly woman with care, provided her with clean clothes, and invited her to rest under the mango tree in her yard. Tears welled up in the elderly woman's eyes as she raised her hands in blessing. "Your heart is bright like gold, dear. I'm granting you a blessing. Whenever you do a good deed, your life will blossom with fortune." From the next day onwards, incredible things began to happen. Sudha's humble vegetable garden flourished abundantly, her household tasks became successful, and the villagers grew to love her even more. On the other hand, Madhavi's life spiraled into misfortune. Her crops dried up, her cows fell ill, and her household items gradually broke down. The villagers started to avoid her because her behavior lacked sincerity. After much adversity, Madhavi realized that she was reaping the consequences of her actions. One morning, she approached Sudha and said, "Sister, I have realized my mistakes. I want to change." Sudha smiled warmly and said, "Why wait then? Let's do good deeds together." From that day, Madhavi began to change slowly. She learned to be helpful and generous to others. Before long, her misfortune began to fade away. Good deeds bring good results, and bad deeds eventually return as consequences. Therefore, it's essential to build a beautiful life with honesty, generosity, and love.
In a quaint village lived a young horseman named Rahul, known for his honesty and diligence, and for the deep connection he shared with his horse, Sonali. Sonali was a splendid and strong horse, but unlike ordinary horses, she possessed a unique quality, a supernatural power unknown to Rahul. Rahul and Sonali worked together in the fields, and one day, Rahul noticed Sonali doing peculiar things. Sometimes her mane would glisten with a deep golden hue, and at times, she would mysteriously ascend into the sky and vanish among the clouds. One day, a mysterious elderly lady approached Rahul. Her face bore seriousness, and her eyes held profound wisdom. "Your horse, Sonali, is not just any horse," she said. "She is a magical horse with immense hidden power. If you are to face a true test, you must help her discover her inner strength. The old lady handed Rahul an ancient map that would lead him to a distant mountain. There, a magical gem awaited, with the power to unleash Sonali's strength. Thus, Rahul and Sonali embarked on their journey. The travel was far from easy. They encountered treacherous forests, turbulent rivers, and steep mountains. Yet Sonali exhibited uncanny bravery. Whenever danger loomed, she seemed to sense an invisible force, awakening new vigor within her. She would gallop up steep slopes swiftly, cross grassy plains nimbly, and wade across rivers effortlessly. One day, they reached the mountain summit, where a vast cave awaited. Inside lay the coveted magical gem. Entering the cave was no simple task, as it held confusing paths, corners shrouded in darkness, and invisible foes seeking to impede them. But sensing her magical strength, Sonali surpassed each obstacle with her extraordinary power. Finally, Sonali touched the gem, unveiling the true mystery of her magic. You have waited long, Sonali. Now your power shall be unleashed. The depths of your heart and the power of love have awakened your inner magic, whispered the gem. Rahul and Sonali returned to their village transformed. Sonali was no longer just a horse. She was a powerful magical being. With her help, the village overcame many adversities. Sonali aided villagers by growing crops, building homes, even protecting the village from floods and storms. Rahul realized true strength comes from the heart. Honest and pure, it wields the power to change the world. Through collaboration, Sonali and Rahul brought peace and prosperity to the village.